You are listening to 88.9 FM KRFC Fort Collins Live at Lunch. I'm your host today, Cindy Schneider, in the studio with my technical guru, Rob Deal. And today we have the privilege of having singer-songwriter Tom Kimmel in the studio. To start out the show, Tom is going into a song for us called Can't Go Home Again from his Light of Day album.
3 crosses in the shadow of a chimney, stand alone. That's all that's left of my family in my home. A plow horse, a blanket, and a walker coat. Gonna ride with Quantrill's men out on the trail of John Brown's ghost. West of Kansas, hell for leather, sworn to set things right, but then everything we ever cared about it, ashes in the wind. Right back east to Missouri, but we can't go home, we can't go home again. Redlegs set fire to Lone Jack, we track them down, catch sight of their flag edged in black. The bugle sounds, our cold pistols thunder and spit out flame. Our aims held in our teeth, we fight them back the way they came. West of Kansas, hell for leather, sworn to set things right, but then everything we ever cared about it, ashes in the wind. Right back east to Missouri, but we can't go home, we can't go home again. Trouble years in the making, now it's going down fast. 'Cause when life and land's being taken, it sets a man on vengeance path. Hell for the leather, sworn to set things right, but then everything we ever cared about it, ashes in the wind. West of Kansas, hell for the leather, sworn to set things right, but then everything we ever cared about it, ashes in the wind. Right back east to Missouri, but we can't go home, we can't go home again. No, we can't go home, we can't go home again. No, we can't go home.
If you just tuned in, we are live in the studio with Tom Kimmel. Tom has a show tomorrow night, Avogadro's Number, Fort Collins, Colorado, 7:30 p.m. Tom, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's great to be back.
Oh, loving it, loving it. Well, before the show, we were talking a little bit about touring and some European touring that you have done. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I have this idea that I just need to go where the red carpet's rolled out as opposed to trying to knock down doors, which has been my habit, I'm afraid, over the years. And I'm finding it's a lot easier if you just kind of go where you're welcome. And I've been getting a lot of interest in activity in Europe, especially in Scandinavia. I started going over there about 5 years ago, and it's just snowballed into, spent 10 weeks over there this year. Just got back from a month-long trip, mostly in Denmark and Sweden, but also in Ireland and in Germany and France. And I'm just loving it. I'm loving working with the European writers and producers, and I've been doing a lot of teaching over there as well. They like studying songwriting with American writers. They're way into American roots music. Surprising.
Love it. So the audience reaction, is it different somewhat than from here, or are there any interesting quirky things about different audiences?
Well, you have to remember that everybody, I mean, when I'm performing, I have to remember that everybody is, English is their second language. I mean, unless I'm in Ireland, the other countries, of course. And so they're hearing what I'm saying, but they're also interpreting for themselves as they're doing it. So I need to speak a little more clearly. I need to be aware that some of the humor that I might use over here is not easily grasped if they're, idioms that are American idioms. And that also comes up with, in co-writing sometimes. I was writing with an artist in Stockholm the first time I was over there. She's wonderful, Lisa Elwin is her name, alt country artist. She calls herself an alt country artist. But we were writing this rockabilly rave-up song, and I threw out this line, "I need to cut you loose, instead I cut you slack." And she said, oh, that's nice. What is cut you loose? And I said, cut you loose, I need to let you go. You're no good, And she said, oh, okay. What is cut you slack? And I said, oh, cut you slack, I let you off the hook. And she said, what is off the hook? So, there is that communication thing, even though, generally speaking, they speak English really well.
Yes. Well, it's so great to have you here in Colorado with us. We're loving it. In the touring that you do in the States, do you find much of a difference between audiences that way?
Not so much playing music, but I published a book of poems a couple of years ago, and I grew up in Alabama. I was born in Memphis. I live in Nashville, and a lot of it is sort of regional flavored. I've come from a large, colorful, I say deep-fried Southern family, and some of the humor that people who know the South they don't always get in other parts of the country. I don't think that's so much true in Colorado. I find that I can pretty much do the same thing here, but it's not true everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about cut you loose. I grew up in Wyoming, and if you're around cowboys, you know what that means.
Yeah, right.
You cut that rope. Yeah. Talk to us about the next song that you're performing for us.
This next song is from my most recent album. It was out end of last year. And it was an interesting, for me, album because it was a collection of songs that I've had in movies and TV shows over the years. And I took 12 songs that have been in something. Even it might have been As the World Turns, but some of the movies were pretty big. Twins and Runaway Bride were the big ones, and some popular TV shows, Miami Vice, Touch My Angel, Dawson's Creek, But this was over a period of time, and I thought it'd be fun to do an album collecting some of those songs that I like, because otherwise a lot of my fans are not going to hear them. They may not be exactly what I do most of the time. But I also put 3 bonus tracks on the album that are songs I wrote for movies but didn't make it in. And this next song is one of those. I wrote it for the movie Stuart Little 2. I wrote it with a guy I write with a lot named Jeff Franzel. And that album was also an opportunity for me to stick a couple of those songs on, that for whatever reason. Actually, the reason it didn't get in Stuart Little 2 is they told us they loved the song, but they thought it was a little too grown-up. Which was interesting because they had told us, don't write a children's song because we want to write songs that work with the movie because the mamas and the daddies buy the records. Anyway, this is called Silver Lining. And I'm going to just play this for Jeff, too. His father had a stroke a couple of days ago, and they're all at the hospital with him right now in Connecticut. You don't have to say a word. I can see how much that hurt. Listen now for what it's worth. Help is on the way. Sometimes when you're in despair, you forget somebody cares. You miss the love that's always there. When you feel that way, So if you're down and out, think no one can save you now, baby, let there be no doubt, it's gonna be alright. The world keeps turning, even when the sun is hiding. Somewhere in the world it's shining, even when it seems so far away. Hey, hey, baby, there's a silver lining to everything. And sometimes when you need some help, you can blame it on yourself, till you feel like there's nothing left and nothing's gonna change. So if you're feeling blue, like this time you won't pull through, baby, that's not half the truth, it's gonna be alright. So don't you worry, even when the sun is hiding. Somewhere in the world it's shining, even when it seems so far away. Hey, hey, baby, there's a silver lining to everything. To learn to fly, you risk it all, and baby, how it hurts to fall. You wanna run, but there's another way. Yeah. Even when the sun is hiding, somewhere in the world it's shining, even when it seems so far away. I know you're feeling broken hearted, but soon you'll see it's where we started, looking for the love that saved the day. Baby, there's a silver lining to everything.
Thank you, Tom. Wow, you know, there are a lot of people struggling right now, and I think that song is something that so many people can relate to.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It spoke to us. We were disappointed it didn't get in the film, but, you know, we got the song. We probably wouldn't have written it otherwise, so, you know, it was a gift in that way.
Wow. So amazing. What does it feel like now to hear these amazing performers performing your songs and to hear your music in films that touch so many people's lives now as opposed to 10 years ago? Is there a difference, or do you still get a little thrill when it happens? I would think it'd be thrilling.
I do get a thrill, of course, but I think one thing that's different now is I was a staff writer with one publisher or other in Nashville or LA for 25 years. I made my own records and I performed and everything. It wasn't like I was just writing for the market or something like that, but still, it was a different, having a relationship with a publisher, there's certain expectations, and a publisher was advancing me money, you know, sort of giving you royalty money in advance, you know, and that's typical in that kind of relationship. It's good in a way. It lets a writer focus on writing and know that the bills are going to be paid. But on the other hand, they have an opinion, and there's a kind of awareness in writing. Is this something that's accessible? Is this something they're going to like? Is it something they're going to be able to successfully, market to other artists or artists who are well known? And I've been an independent artist and writer for the last 7 years, and now it's really changed the energy of the way I'm writing. And I think when I hear songs that other people have done of mine, I feel really honored that they care enough to put one of my songs on their records. Or if I hear something on a movie or TV show, I feel really blessed that a lot of people are hearing that song that they probably wouldn't have heard from one of my records. I mean, I have my fans, you know, I've got my cult following, but it's really small compared to what somebody hears, you know, in a TV show or a movie. So I'm just thankful for every time that somebody hears something.
You mentioned the way that you're writing is different. How is there a typical way that a song comes together for you, or is it always different?
Well, I like to joke that I'll write a song anyway it gets the song done, you know. So people say, do you write the words first or the lyrics first, or what's it like collaborating a lot and that sort of thing? And I'm just trying to keep the subconscious lubricated. When I teach songwriting, that's what I tell them. I say, now here's what the thing: you don't want to let your intellect take the place of spirit. You know, you want to let spirit do its job, and you want to bring your intellect in service to that magical, mysterious thing that tries to bubble up as songs and art. But, you know, for me, my job is, you know, to keep spirit nurtured, and I call it keeping the subconscious lubricated so it can do the heavy lifting, you know.
I love it. And
when things are bubbling up and ideas are flowing, it's really a joy to write. Then it's just trying to find, what's this song trying to say, and is this something I want to try to write with somebody else? Or so I feel more creative now than I've ever felt. I've got so many things going on, and I've got so many half-finished songs out there, but it's really fun just trying to keep up with it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. Well, tell us about the next song, and how did it come together for you?
Well, I thought while we're on the movie subject, I'll just go ahead and play one more song from that album. It's another song that I wrote with Jeff Franzel, and we wrote this for the movie Serendipity. It was out 6 or 7 years ago. John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale were the stars. It was a romantic comedy. It wasn't a great movie, but I enjoyed it, you know, and it did pretty well. And then afterwards, Shawn Colvin recorded it for the movie. Did a really nice job. And we wrote it for a scene in the movie, and they used it for a scene in the movie. So I thought, if I'm going to play the one that didn't make it in, I'll play one that did. It's called When You Know, and it goes like this. When you know that you know who you love, you can't deny it, or go back, or give up, or pretend you don't buy it. When it's clear this time you found the one, you never let her go. 'Cause you know, and you know that you know. When you feel in your skin, in your bones, in the hollow of your heart, there's no way you can wait till tomorrow, 'cause there isn't any doubt about it once you come this close. 'Cause you know, and you know that you know. You can feel love surround you like the sky around the moon. This is how love has found you. Now you know what to do when you know that you know who you need. You can't deny it, or go back, or give up, or pretend you don't buy it. When it's clear this time you found the one, you never let her go. 'Cause you know, and you know that you know. Oh, and it's time you come in from the cold. Oh, 'cause you know that you know.
Tom Kimmel, live in the KRFC studio. I want to give a shout out to Steve at Quantum Arts and tell him a big thank you for all of the amazing artists that he brings into our community. He's been doing great work for this community for years and years and years, and he also DJs the folk show every other Saturday, bringing even more beautiful music to us. So thank you, Steve. We love you.
I second that. Steve brings me here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come here every year. And I've been here several years in a row now, and all from Steve's invitation. So I think he's got a really cool thing. I see all the artists who are playing, a lot of people I'm friends with on the road, and it's a real gift to the community in Fort Collins.
Yes, and speaking of gifts, Steve is offering a pair of tickets that we'll be giving away later in the hour to the show tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Well, TomKimmel.com on the World Wide Web. Lots of great information there. So with technology being what it is now, Tom, is that something that you delegate or have you jumped into that yourself with regard to, being on the net and well, I guess there's two sides of that, the promotion part and then utilizing it for your music and maybe even your teaching.
I've learned a lot about it, but I can't keep up with it. I've got a great she's a longtime assistant who's basically managing me and booking me now, and she handles all that stuff, and she keeps it looking fresh and nice and everything, And I think it's important at a certain point for most artists, you just can't do everything. And what I find I do when I try to do everything is, I can do a lot of things, but they suffer. I don't get to do the things well that I can do. And it's great for me to be able to focus on writing and touring and recording and teaching, and that's enough.
Yeah. Well, you speaking of teaching, talk to us about that. Is this something like you're doing all of the time, or just when special opportunities present themselves?
Well, I'm doing it more and more, so it feels like a transitional time. I think I'm heading towards teaching being a really major part of what I'm doing. I got invited to teach at a couple of songwriting retreats several years ago, and I realized that, theoretically I should know a lot about songwriting, but I didn't know how to share it very well. So I started thinking about what I had learned that was valuable and how I'd learned it and how I might present it in a way that somebody coming to my workshop might really be able to take something that they could apply to their own work. And I thought about the first people I encountered who helped me out. My first publisher in Nashville, a seminar I went to on writing that was led by the guys who wrote all the songs in Mary Poppins, Richard and Robert Sherman.
Oh, wow.
And even though I didn't write in their style, the way they talked about writing and the process was immensely helpful and exciting to me. At that time, I was a young guy in Nashville in the 70s, late 70s. And my wife is a teacher, and she was a really big help. She went to a songwriting retreat with me, and she sat in on my class and said, here's what you're doing right, here's what, where you can really improve. And she helped me with stuff like course descriptions. Like, for example, once I got into it, I wanted to be hired more often to do these retreats, and she said, you got to write your descriptions so that they sound exciting. In other words, I had one like, how to effectively collaborate or whatever, but that became the art of collaboration. And I had one called working with writer's block, and now that's called writing through the dry season.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's the same stuff. Because once they're in a room, I'm going to be entertaining, and I can talk. So, but I really like it, and I'm getting so much positive feedback from it. I'm doing retreats and workshops. I'm hooked up with a guy in Europe, in Denmark. He's an American living in Copenhagen, named Brett Perkins. And Brett, he used to be the head of the National Academy of Songwriters here, and he fell in love with a Danish girl and moved over there. And he does retreats all over Europe, so I'm starting to be included in some of those. And then he's finding other sponsored things. I mean, they have more support for the arts there than we do. I'm really sad to say that, but it's true. I mean, everybody, much more than in our culture, is taught you're an artist. And I believe that. I believe everybody is an artist. And sometimes when people come and sit down for my classes, the first thing I say is, repeat after me. I am an artist. That's just the way it is.
Nice.
And I believe it. I don't think
Yeah.
it's like we have this idea that, the entertainers that we see on TV and in clubs, not their artists, and we're not. And people say to me, I'm just not creative. I could never play an instrument. It's not true, and it's really sad. I think it's debilitating in our culturally for us.
Well, it's wonderful that you have that awareness, and I know before the show we were talking about a few things, and you just don't seem to allow any kind of negative thoughts to come into your experience. If you start to say something that is that way, I notice you correct it and you say, no, this is going to be this way, and it's going to be great, and we're going to do this, and this is going to do that, and I love that.
Well, thanks. I think we do have a certain responsibility towards, directing our language and our thoughts, but I think at the same time there's a danger to it as well with if you. For example, I've had a song nominated the last 3 years in the Positive Music Awards, and I think it's a wonderful thing, but we also have to make sure that we allow time for the blues. I really think that's important, and not just the blues and music, but I think we need to, grieve our losses.
Yeah.
And we can't just put a happy face on those things, and I think that's one really important function of music and the arts. One thing I miss about some of the old country songs,
The honesty. There's an honesty to it.
Yeah. I sing, usually try to sing one or two in my set just to when I perform. I've been playing this song, If You're Gonna Do Me Wrong, Do It Right. It was a hit for Vern Gosdin 20 years ago, and it's just such it's self-pitying. That, Hank Williams Jr., I like to say back when he was good, see, that was negative. He had this great song called Stoned at the Jukebox, and in it he says, that's the kind of songs it takes to get that old hurting out. And Lord, I love that hurting music because I am hurting too. And I think that's an important function of the arts. It really is. It's not something that you're supposed to like. I think we get confused about what positive means,
Well, if there were someone listening right now who would be interested in attending one of your workshops or classes, what would be the best way for them to find out about them?
Well, if they'll go to my website, there's a link that says teaching.
Great.
So it's right there on the front page, and just click on that, and then there's a place you can email and call for information. And also my tour schedule's there, and it shows, workshops. So I'm doing, in addition to the workshops, I'm doing more and more one-on-one stuff. Sometimes in Nashville, people will come to my studio, but I'm doing Skype sessions now, and you just book it with my booking agent like an event, and what time am I going to buzz you and your Skype name,
I love it.
or long distance, and I record all my feedback and instruction. I record it to a digital recorder that I can make an MP3 of, and then at the end of the session, they get a zipped file that's got all that stuff they can listen to again. So it's a neat system. I'm really into it.
That's wonderful. Oh, so exciting to hear that. Well, what would you like to perform for us live next?
Well, I thought I'd play a new song. This song, it wasn't just written, but it's going to be on my next album. So this will be a little preview, and since it's still autumn, I thought it's a seasonal song, and I wanted to, I think my wife is listening, stream it to the streaming show,
Nice.
And she's in Nashville, and I told her I was going to play her a song, so I want to play this song for Robin, and she and my daughter Ellen are so great about me. I've been on the road so much this last few months, and they really hold down the fort. And I should add that I wrote this song with John Smith, who's a regular at Avo's. He comes every year, and he's, Steve is a big fan of, Steve Brockway's a big fan of John's, and this was on one of John's albums, and it'll definitely be on my next one, and it's called We Got It Right This Time for Robin. Frost on the cornfield, pumpkin on the vine, candle in the window, waiting on the stars to shine. Geese call in the distance, like some choir way up there. Wood is up for winter, and the burley's in the barn. Gonna need an extra blanket, you can feel it in the air, and baby, we got it right this time. Baby, we got it right this time. Ain't no ocean between us, ain't no mountain to climb. Baby, we got it right this time. Laughter through a doorway echoes down the road, closer every minute, and the minutes slipping by like the tears of jealous angels. I'll be there before you know it, baby, we got it right this time. Baby, we got it right this time. Ain't no ocean between us, ain't no mountain to climb. Baby, we got it right this time. Throw some gravel on this road and call it a highway. Put up a sign and call this a town. Put up a dream and try calling it someday. What do you do when you're living it now? Baby, we got it right this time. Baby, we got it right this time. Ain't no ocean between us, ain't no mountain to climb. Baby, we got it right this time. We got it right this time. We got it right this time.
So beautiful. I am so grateful to be in the studio right now with Tom Kimmel. Wow.
Thank you. I'm having a good time, too.
The hour is going very fast, and for our listening audience, we will be giving away a pair of tickets a little bit later in the hour. There's about 25 minutes left in the show. Yeah.
Hey, Cindy, we should mention that song I just played, I wrote with John Smith, and John's going to be here at Avo's next month. I don't remember the exact date that Steve mentioned.
No, but you know, if they go to quantumarts.net, they can find out about shows and get tickets and check into the artists and all the good work that Steve's doing. So,
well, John's wonderful, so I just want to encourage everybody to come out to his shows, because he's one of my favorites and one of my best friends too. He's just a great guy and a wonderful singer, writer, and entertainer.
Nice. Well, talk to us a little bit about the projects that you're working on right now.
Well, I've started just beginning to get my next project together as a solo, but I'm also working with two new trios, and one of them is called the Waymores. It's me and Don Henry and Sally Barris, two of my favorite Nashville singer-songwriters. They both tour and perform, and we kind of got put together by a booking agent, a guy who runs an agency called the Americana Agency. John Laird's his name, and I was looking for a booking agent last year, and he said, you know what you ought to do is, why don't you put together a trio with a couple of your buddies that you enjoy playing with? And I said, well, you know, I'm going out on the road on a little trip coming up here with Don Henry and Sally Barris. And he said, oh, I love them. Why don't you let me book you? So, you know, there's again what I was saying about trying to knock doors down and walking through the door where the red carpet's rolled out. And I thought, wow, it's that easy? Well, so I just called them up. Hey, would y'all like to form a little trio? They were like, oh, God, yes.
That's great.
So now we've played 20 shows together, and we've got about 20 more on the books, and we've cut 3 songs toward an album together.
Nice.
So I'm doing that, and then I'm doing another trio called The New Agrarians with Pierce Pettis and Kate Campbell. Totally different kind of music. And Pierce is also a favorite of Steve Brockway's. Mm-hmm. He comes here and plays regularly. And as a matter of fact, I thought I might play a song that I've written with Pierce. Might be a good segue into that. Pierce is, oh gosh, he's such an inspiration. I'm a major fan. I just put together a list of my top 50 favorite songs ever, and I have one of John's songs and one of Pierce's, and one of Don's and Sally's and Kate Campbell. So all these people I'm working with, it's really nice because I really do love their songs. So Pierce and I wrote this song. I had an idea for it, and I thought about doing it kind of as a, and this is interesting the way sometimes songs evolve, you know. I wanted to do it kind of as a real dark, groovy, bluesy, what was it? I wanted to do it like this. Come on down to the Cryin Ground. Come on down, down, down to the Cryin Ground. And Pierce, he said, no, it should be a Memphis-y, Muscle Shoals, gospel-y sounding thing like this. No need to hide what's going on. Your story's all over town. And it's all right that it's all wrong. Just come on down to the Cryin Ground. Dark sky feels like rain. Just look at all those thunderclouds. I bet that dam is just about to break. Better come on down to the Cryin Ground. Come on down to the Cryin Ground. We are talking holy water rolling down your face. Ain't no disgrace. Come on down to the Cryin Ground. I can see you won't steal away where you will never be found. But sometimes everybody feels this way. Better come on down to the Cryin Ground. Come on down to the Cryin Ground. We are talking holy water rolling down your face. Ain't no disgrace. Come on down to the Cryin Ground. No need to tell me what you're going through, 'cause sister, I've been right where you are now. You know exactly what you need to do. So come on down, 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 down. Come on down, 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 down. Better come on down, 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 down. Come on down, 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 down. We are talking holy water rolling down your face. Ain't no disgrace. Come on down to the Cryin Ground. Down to the Cryin Ground. Down to the Cryin Ground. Better come on.
Tom Kimmel, live in the KRFC studio. That guitar sounds so sweet when you're picking it.
Well, you know, I borrowed this guitar because I was so out of it. I got home from Europe on Monday. I was supposed to come out here on Friday, and I missed my flight. Left late, got in a traffic jam, got to the airport, and there was a security lockdown. And anyway, my bags made it, and I missed it by 2 minutes. And so I thought, well, I'll go home, I'll get a little sleep. But I had to get up at 5 in the morning to go back to the airport, and I just grabbed my little briefcase, backpack, and went to the airport without my guitar.
Oops.
So this guitar belongs to a friend who just sponsored
a house concert for me. Her name is Sally Johnson, and it's a Loudon guitar. It's made in Ireland, and I'm going to have a really hard time giving it back to her.
It's a nice thing. You know, we have a great artist community in Colorado and very strong supporters. And we've had artists come through to do the show, but their gear doesn't show up till later on a bus. So, you know, we'll just make some calls. With an average of 22 live shows a month, we know a lot of artists, and everyone is always so helpful and willing to accommodate other artists and support them, that we'll, you know, just backline the whole thing with drums and keys and, you know, whatever they need. And it's nice to see. It's a good feeling, and it's kind of interesting for the artists coming in playing on other instruments that they're not as familiar with.
I hear you on both counts. Yeah, it's really sweet that people are so generous in that way. And also, it's been really interesting to me. I have this guitar, and I have a Martin that a friend named Dwight Mark loaned me, and it's very nice too. And but they're really different from. I play a couple of Gibsons on the road, and it's almost like a different instrument. They sound so different. But I've played 3 or 4 shows with them, and I'm really accustomed to them now, so I'm into it.
Well, I have a few friends who are guitarists who talk about their guitars like they talk about their girlfriends.
Yeah.
There's a real relationship going on there.
Yes, there is. I certainly have that relationship. This my main Gibson I play. I've had it for 20 years, and I'll tell you, I had a sort of a rock and roll period where I made a couple of records for Mercury Records, and I had a couple of videos on MTV. And I played a Gibson in one of them that was borrowed, and my manager told somebody at Gibson, you know, you really ought to give him one. He played your guitar. And they called me up and said, come pick out a guitar. And I wanted, the guitar I have is called a J200. They've been making them since the 30s. They're big, jumbo, gaudy, pearl, cowboy-looking guitars, you know. And I wanted one because I had seen Elvis, Bob Dylan, and John Lennon all play J200, so I picked that guitar out because it was just a cool thing, you know. But I really lucked out because it sounds great. It's really nice. It's my sound, you know. But hey, I think I have a new alternate sound too with these guitars I'm playing here. I published a book of poems a couple of years ago, and I'm way into it, and I'm incorporating some in the shows. You know, every 3 or 4 songs I'll recite a poem, and it's gotten to be a big part of what I'm doing. I'm collecting poems for another book at some point I'll have, and I've met so many people in that world that I wouldn't have met without doing this. There's a lot of love in that world. There's a, you know, it's funny, if there's an aspect of the arts that makes less money than songs, it's poetry. And so it's such a supportive community of people, you know. Yeah. Everybody wants to tell everybody else about their favorite poet that they haven't heard and all that. So, but I thought I wanted to read this one in particular because it's an odd thing, but I talked about Jeff's dad, my co-writer's dad, having a stroke. My dad has cancer, and he just started his chemo treatment day before yesterday. So I dedicated this book to him, and there are a few poems about him, and I just want to read my favorite one. And I just want to say up front that he really likes this poem, so, but it shows a side of him that I think is a side of a lot of men in his generation that maybe have trouble expressing their feelings. The man on the phone. My dad is not a crier. Like most men of his generation, he's always put his game face on when things get touchy. I don't mean that he can't express affection. He can. We get a hug coming and going, and he'll say, I love you, and mean it. But he's rarely lost his composure, and when he has, it's usually been in anger, with a loud voice, harsh words, and maybe a slammed door. But when his little terrier Willie got into the rat poison, he wailed like a woman at the wall. My mother phoned each of us in Nashville, Memphis, and Tupelo and had us talk with him. Afterwards we conferred and expressed our amazement because he had sobbed until he was unintelligible. And when we could catch a phrase intact, it would be something like, he was just my little boy. Or, he was the best friend I ever had. Or, you know how he loved to ride in the truck. Then he'd break into a howl of grief, which was surreal to us. It wasn't that we didn't feel for him. I don't mean that at all. Or that we didn't grieve for Willie, because we all adored Willie. We just never seen our father carry on like that. After the initial devastation, over a period of days, he gradually returned to something resembling his normal, hard-assed self. Something resembling it, I say, because I don't think he's ever been quite the same. Or maybe he is the same. Maybe it's just that I think of him a little differently. Because these days, when he loses his temper or stalks off in a huff, I remember the man on the phone. And it's a good thing. It's helpful.
Wow. Tom, you said you were going to read that, and you closed your eyes and just remembered it all. It's so amazing.
Well, you know, I've done it a bunch. I usually keep the book open in case I forget, but there are a few poems in there that I can pretty much recite, you know.
It's a marvel. How do you remember all of the lyrics and all of the songs? It just becomes so much a part of you?
Practice. It's just practice, you know. I mean, I really don't think I remember things that well, and I have to sing a new song a few times before I can get confident about it. But some people, I hear people sometimes will say, I wrote this afternoon and play. I could never do that. Not without a big cheat sheet anyway, you know.
Yeah.
But it amazes me. I'm friends with some, some actors, and I can't believe, they go to an audition or something. I mean, I had an old girlfriend a long time ago who she'd be preparing for something, and she'd be memorizing huge amounts of dialogue, in a very short time, and I just couldn't figure out how she did it. So they got something going on that I don't quite grasp.
Well, thank you for that poem. That was very powerful.
Well, thank you for letting me read it. I just love being able to incorporate it into the music.
We have about 10 minutes left in the Live at Lunch hour. What would you like to sing for us next?
Well, I was talking a little earlier about, I had a couple of rock and roll records out, and a lot of my folk fans, I'd call them, don't really know about that music, but I really enjoy sometimes, rocking out a little bit. I occasionally get to play with a band in Nashville. It's a really cool cover band that was started by a friend of mine named Bill Lloyd. He used to be in a country duo called Foster and Lloyd. I don't know if you know of them, but they had some hits. And he and Gary Talent, who's the bass player in the E Street Band, Bruce Springsteen, started this band called the Long Players. And once a month, they do a cover show. They pick a classic album that they love, and they've got an awesome band. And they work up note for note the album, and they play it top to bottom with guest singers. So I've gotten to do some of those records with them, and then they'll do a second set by the same artist, but from different albums. So I got to do Layla with them. I got to do Elvis Costello's first album. I got to do Sticky Fingers, and I got to do Born to Run, and I got to sing Born to Run in the album set, and I got to do Spirit in the Night. So I mean, I do write some up tempo, stuff that's. And I just thought I just need to do at least one of those, okay? You can't do them all on the acoustic guitar, but this one. And this one was, it wasn't written for a film, but it was in a film called Cruel Intentions.
I actually really like that movie.
Good. It was recorded for the film by an artist named Abram Moore, if you see it again. It's called Trip on Love. I let my guard down in a momentary lapse of emotion. It just slipped out. Then we both knew my heart could be broken. I said something I never intended to say. You stopped laughing and you asked me, do you feel alone in this way? Do you trip on love? Do you run from magic when you kiss someone? Do you make it tragic if you feel too much? Do you start to panic when the word comes up? Do you trip on love?
I just stood there. I'd expected another reaction. Out of thin air came the strangest sense of satisfaction. Can you tell me how you see me so well? If you held me, would you let me see that part of yourself? Do you trip on love? Do you run from magic when you kiss someone? Do you make it tragic if you feel too much? Do you still panic when the word comes up? Do you trip on love? And where do we go? Do we say it means less than we know it does? Please tell me, I wanna know.
We are live in the studio with Tom Kimmel. I want to thank you so much for being here today. It's been just such a gift for me and for our listening audience, Tom.
Thanks. Thank you, Cindy. And thanks, Rob, back there.
Rob Deal, our technical guru today. He's wonderful to work with. We're so grateful for him. Well, we just have about 4 minutes left in the Live at Lunch hour. You have a song you'd like to close the show with?
Yeah, I got something that I often open my shows with this now. I used to close it. Wrote this song at a fishing camp in Arkansas in 1990. And I sang it, right off the bat every night, but nobody recorded it for about 10 years. And then Randy Travis recorded it for a gospel album and performed it on the TV show Touched by an Angel. They did a special 2-part episode of Touched by an Angel based on the song, which was really neat. And you were asking earlier about people getting to hear my songs through other people, and I probably never play for an audience that big, so that was really sweet.
Nice.
They don't know it's my song, but it doesn't matter. The song's kind of doing what it needs to do, So this song's been a gift to me in a lot of ways, and it's a good song to close with. And I'll do a shorter version of it that'll come right out at the hour, okay?
Thank you, Tom.
It's called Shallow Water.
I will not drown in shallow water, not with your love within my reach. I did not come this far to falter, and will not rest until I'm free. You are the sun, you are the flower, you are the wind, across the sea. And I will kneel here at your altar and pray you take my soul to keep. Oh, precious one, you are the mountain, you are the earth beneath my feet. In you we're one, now and forever. In you I find the love in me. Through your love my eyes are opened. Through your love I'll learn to see. And in your name my bread is broken. By your grace I'll live in peace. I will not drown in shallow water, not with your love within my reach. I did not come this far to falter.